Okay, so this right here is my mom's 2007 Ford Escape Hybrid. A couple years ago, I installed this joining head unit, cut it a little too big, broke after 7 months. Then I bought her an Alpine head unit for Mother's Day. The problem is, I never hooked up the little emergency brake thing. And my mom never really reminded me about it because, she doesn't really use all that, like Apple CarPlay, Android Auto stuff, but I like to use it. Now, in my dad's Pioneer, in his Fusion, it doesn't really matter what you do. As long as the radio is hooked up, you still have access to all this stuff. With Alpine, they're extremely restrictive to the point of infuriation. I'm going to take this thing apart and hook up that... Ooh, that's dirty. I'm going to take this thing apart and hook up the emergency brake safety switch, or whatever it's called. Luckily, on this Escape, it's not that hard to pull apart the center console. So step one, stick a little plastic pry tool in here, and then start slowly prying it up. Okay, so this right here is a little trim ring. You can see you just need to pop it in, or push it in towards it, and it just comes right out. It only goes in one way from what I can tell. And I am going to take this inside and wash it because it's gross. Now for the rest of the center console. It's fairly easy to get out. All you do is you pop this thing open, then you just stick a pry tool in there and pop the whole thing out. And you can see just like that, everything else has come out around it. Well, if you're going to take it off and take it inside like I am to wash this thing, you're going to just take out the cigarette lighter plug down there and shift the car into neutral and then pull the whole thing out. Okay, car's in neutral and I'm going to pull it right out. So the main reason I'm doing this is because in my dad's car I could just plug a phone into the USB and use our Android Auto and not have an issue. But this one, it just pops an error message and just keeps toggling back and forth. I can't even use it to just charge my phone without getting the error message to come up and without the radio being cut out. Like, the actual radio gets cut out. Honestly, I would never buy an Alpine head unit again because it's been nothing more than like a ancient UI looking thing from 2007 with too many nannies, and the radio quality is not even that good. Honestly, the Pioneer was a much better option. This thing kind of sucks. Anyway, I'm going to route the USB cable down through here, along this side right here, and cut a hole right in the center console, little cargo compartment lid thing. Then I'm going to bring the wire and connect it to, well, there's only one wire for the e-brake safety switch, so I'm guessing it has to be this one, right? So this extender, one end goes into the trimmed area of the actual little storage compartment, and the other end just connects to the USB port right there. It's super simple, and to be honest, I wish it kind of had like some kind of locking mechanism. Damn it.
So what's going to happen with this neutral or this parking brake safety switch is that it connects directly to the e-brake. Now normally when you ground out this plug, it trips the safety switch and everything works fine in the head unit. But unlike most head units, this Alpine head unit requires a pulse in the actual safety switch. So when you turn your car on first, you'll notice that the red light for the e-brake comes on because the system is running a self-test to make sure that everything is working correctly. Now, this Alpine head unit needs that initial pulse in order to activate everything, so that it knows that the actual system is really hooked up to the e-brake safety switch. There are little dongles or little bypass things you can buy on Amazon for about $4 to $15, and those will bypass it. But the thing is, this is my mom's car and she drives it as her daily, and to be honest, I would prefer that she's not messing with the radio while driving. So the best option for that is to make sure that she has the neutral safety switch enabled in its full functionality. In my car, would I do this? Honestly, probably not. But hooking it up will allow me to pair Bluetooth, fix the time on this clock. But that is not going to be the end of my frustrations for this video, which you'll see soon enough.
Okay, so I'm going to take this lid out of the center console bin out and take it inside and drill the actual, or cut the hole for the USB port. So you can see there's two bolts here. There's 7mm. Then you got two torque screws on the inside. I believe that's it. Oh, make that four torque screws. I wonder if I have any of those. Okay, so I couldn't find my cutter, so I ended up just using a tiny drill bit, and drilling out a bunch of little holes, and just stuck the USB port in there. Came out pretty good. Not 100% flush, but it will be when I'm done with it. Actually, no, it is flush. Never mind. Yeah, it's flush. But it's a little off kilter. But now to connect that to the USB port going to the radio, and then to connect the parking brake safety switch, and that should finish the install. I should have done this like a year ago, man. And then I gotta wash the panel and pop everything back in here. Probably vacuum clean that out too. Okay, so here we are connected to the actual Alpine head unit. You can see right there that this is a hardwired connection straight to the e-brake, right to the switch. Now, that hard connection does work, because if you go right there, you can see there's the menus. When I release the parking brake, they go black. So I know that the connection is functioning properly. Right, but when it comes to actually getting the Android Auto to work, it doesn't really seem to do anything. Right? So I'm currently hooked into the car. All the wires are done. The USB cable is routed. It's in there. And for a brief second sometimes it'll connect and give me Android Auto as an icon right here under connectivity. But it'll disappear and it'll only work every once in a while, which is something I find to be quite odd. I double checked the connection down there, and overall this thing is extremely finicky. I know the connection here is solid because that's been soldered in. There's definitely no chance of any kind of loose connection. And again, if you take this out, drop down, you can see the menus change based on the actual gauges, right? Right there. Let's see, dimmer, language, reset maybe? Yeah, let's try that. Maybe that'll change something. Yes, okay, are you frozen now? Reset in the head unit, maybe that'll fix it. English. Okay, let's try that in English. That's it. Okay, there's Android Auto. Let's see if it actually works this time. Okay. Now this right here is the furthest I've been able to go so far with the Android screen. Okay, so now it's kind of working. Still extremely slow to load. Let's see if the songs are functioning. Nope, it just pops me back out here. There's this every time. Now the connectivity icon for Android Auto is completely gone. What the is wrong with this thing, man? I'm so over this radio. The Pioneer one was a million times better, and the sound quality had exactly the same. Almost no difference. I'm gonna find the model number of this thing and just say don't buy it, man. It's not worth it. It really isn't. This is that shallow din Alpine head unit for like $200 some. Not even worth the money. I've had dual head units that are more more reliably functioning than this one. This is such a pain. Parking brake down, pull back up. Does it come up? Nope. Okay, I'm over it. Either way, this is hooked up correctly here. USB cable is hooked up correctly. All the power joints are tight. If you reset the radio in a few seconds, it'll give you Android Auto for like a minute, and then it'll just vanish into thin air. So, yeah. This is how you hook up the e-brake safety switch. Just don't do it on an Alpine radio, because they suck.
Now, at this point in the video, I just want to highlight a couple things. I've got the head unit installed. All the wiring is solid. And I think I've solved the problem as to why I can't get Android Auto to work, but it's not 100%. So I'm going to be running through some things. I'm going to update the firmware and do some other stuff later on throughout the week. And I'll update the video when I get this thing working. Because honestly, I am so amazingly infuriated at just how ridiculous Alpine has done this. I've installed dual head units with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay that have worked better than this Alpine head unit. Every single step of the way, it's just frustration. It's too many nannies in terms of just how restrictive they are with the safety switch. And now that I've got the safety switch working, this isn't even working correctly. And from what I can tell from Amazon reviews, this is a fairly common problem. So if you like this video, hit like. If you want to see how I fix this issue, hit subscribe and do whatever else you do on the internet.